Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are comparing the complimentary food versus the specialty food on MSC.
Yeah, MSC has several ships that we've been on recently, and the food is a little different than most of the other cruise ships we've been on. It's not quite, the free food is not quite the same standard usually as other cruise lines, so this is going to be an interesting comparison. But let's jump right in to the free food and kind of tell people what they're getting. But unfortunately, the first thing with free food is it's pretty inconsistent. So from ship to ship and cruise to cruise, I think that's the biggest challenge with MSC is the inconsistency.
It is, yes. It just depends on which ship you're on and where you're headed as to what the different food options are going to be. They could be skewed one way or the other with one particular type of food than others. So you've got two options as far as complimentary food, and that is the main dining area and the marketplace, the buffet. So those are really the only two options that they give you on MSC. There are no other complimentary dining options on the ship. Now, the main dining rooms, there are several different ones depending on which level of service you have purchased on MSC. And like if you're in Yacht Club, you'll have your own dining rooms there. And then there's a couple different restaurants options for those in the rest of the ship, basically.
Yeah, now we've had the food experience at MSC kind of correlate to how much we paid also for the cruise. So when we were on the really cheap MSC cruises, we did notice that the food was pretty substandard, almost to the point where we wanted off the cruise ship.
It was almost not edible a couple of times.
Now, when we paid a little bit more, we're on the newer MSC cruise ships, we did notice that the food was quite a bit better and almost like in line with like what Carnival would be, but nowhere near, you know, Celebrity or Princess or a cruise line like that.
Right.
But you're also not paying $2,000 for a 4-night cruise on MSC, so that is somewhat to be expected. We did have a really good experience on this last cruise with MSC. They had a surf and turf, which was amazing. They had a prime rib. They had salmon. They had all kinds of beef tenderloin.
Lamb shank. And in that surf and turf, it was a lobster tail with a fillet, which I was really surprised by, especially since we were so disappointed with our previous MSC cruise. We were pretty shocked. Not only, well, it was a transatlantic cruise, the last one we did. So not only did we get one surf and turf, but they served it two different times, which was really astonishing. So the food, as we mentioned earlier, is inconsistent because we had done a previous cruise which was very inexpensive. If you haven't seen that video, you can go take a look at that one here on the channel on the Meraviglia. But we kind of give you our review of that whole experience if you're considering that one. But on this Seascape one, the food was completely different than on that ship.
Yeah, and I think where they kind of fall short with the free food also is that there just aren't any other options. So when you go on a cruise line like Carnival, you're getting Guy's Burger Bar or Shack's Chicken, and that's really good food for like secondary options. Right. Whereas on MSC, if you want anything at that level of food, you're gonna have to go to a specialty restaurant. Right. So it's almost as if the free food is a little lower level, and then the specialty restaurants kind of are in that range of some of the regular restaurants on other ships.
Right, and I think one of the other things that we noticed as well with the free food, the complimentary dining, is that even at like dinner time, they kind of drive you to certain areas with the food choices. So like at dinner time, if you go to the buffet, the options are not that great. You don't have a lot of choices and a lot of options of food there, and it's in just a small area. They don't even have a big area open like they would at lunchtime or at breakfast. It's a small area, so they're really discouraging you from eating in the buffet for dinner. They're pushing everybody to eat in the main dining room for dinner.
Yeah, so if food is a big deal to you, you're probably gonna want to go with some specialty restaurants on MSC. So let's run down what those are. They've got the Butcher's Cut, which is their steakhouse, and it's a really nice steakhouse. Most cruise lines have a steakhouse on now, and I would say this maybe isn't quite as good as your NCL, your Cagney's, or some other. You know, Carnival has the Fahrenheit restaurant, which is pretty good. This is along those lines. Then they have Hola Tacos and Cantina, which is obviously serving Mexican food. It's pretty interesting because I thought the food there was pretty good, and it's definitely the cheapest restaurant they've got.
It is. Of the specialty restaurants, it actually was very surprising. I mean, they had menu items as inexpensive as like $2.50.
Yeah.
You know, so it was crazy to see items on a specialty restaurant a la carte under $3. It was really crazy. I mean, we ate there one lunchtime and spent less than $20, which is really insane. And that included a beverage, a specialty beverage there too. So it was really surprised by the pricing there, but the food was actually quite good.
And they've got a Kaito Teppanyaki, and on some ships the sushi is combined with that, and then on some ships they've got a separate sushi restaurant also for that.
Yes.
And that is good food. The sushi seemed pretty inexpensive, but the teppanyaki seemed a little more expensive to us.
Yes.
We'll get into that in a second here as to what you should do as far as pricing goes.
Yes.
And then their last one is their seafood restaurant.
Yes, and it's named after their private island, Ocean Cay or Key, and it's an all seafood restaurant. They only serve seafood, so just keep that in mind before you make reservations. If you don't like seafood, don't eat at that restaurant.
Yeah, exactly. So the specialty restaurants on MSC kind of fall into the category of you can either go a la carte or you can buy a package or just book one individually. But if you're going to book them individually, just get the package because it is going to be a little bit cheaper. But we don't really recommend going with the package because on these restaurants, say like the Butcher's Cut, for instance, it's part of the package and you only get 3 things with it. You only get an appetizer, a steak, and a dessert, and you really don't even get to pick from the best steaks on the menu.
Right.
Almost everything is an upgrade. So for instance, even at the teppanyaki, you're going to get in there and you're going to see they have 3 levels of teppanyaki, and you're not going to get the fillet or the tenderloin with yours.
Right.
With the package. You're going to have to upcharge that. So
there's an upcharge for almost every cut of steak except for that one basic entry level.
So when you buy your package and you're thinking that's all you're paying, you're going to get to the restaurant and you're not going to want what's in the package. So for that reason, I think it's better to go with the a la carte and just buy exactly what you want.
Exactly.
Because it's going to end up being cheaper and you may not want everything that's in the package. Some of the package stuff you don't want at all.
Right.
The other part of it is that when we were on our cruises, they always offer certain days where they're offering 20% off a la carte menu at specialty restaurants. So look for that, take advantage. But most people that booked the packages ahead of time were kind of not happy they did.
Yeah, we spoke to a few people and they were disappointed because of the upcharge situation. There was an upcharge for almost anything else that they wanted. Like you said, the filet is an upcharge, you know, the ribeye is an upcharge, extra sides they charge you, whereas a lot of specialty restaurants, especially the steakhouse on some of the other cruise lines, you can order whatever you want off the menu. You can order, you know, as many appetizers as you want, whichever, you know, steak option you want. Really the only upcharge in the steakhouse usually in most cruise ships, specialty restaurant, steak restaurant, is the lobster. But on this one, they upcharge for nearly every steak. Yeah.
And even like at the on NCL at the La Bistro, I've had them bring me the huge ribeye, which wasn't even on their menu. There's a lot more flexibility, I guess, is the bottom line with the packaging. So in MSC, they're very strict with what you're going to get, and so if they're going to be that way, your best choice is just to pay a la carte for each thing that you actually want.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And then the Ocean Key restaurant, like we said with this, it's all seafood. And again, there are some upcharges there as well, like for the lobster and some of the other dishes. So make sure that you take a look at that a la carte menu because that's actually going to, you know, kind of guide which restaurant you want to eat at, and, you know, just kind of have to think about what you want to actually eat. So make sure you're looking at those menus beforehand, and they're in the app, but you can also go and look at them. They're out in front of each of those restaurants.
Yeah, overall, I would rate the food on MSC as just one little notch below Carnival, if I was kind of doing it that way. And I would say they suffer in the variety, but when they do it well, they do have good food. It's just that there's inconsistency, and for that reason, you may find yourself wanting to go to a specialty restaurant.
Right.
Because specialty restaurants are pretty consistent. You're going to get a consistently good meal there.
Right.
It's not that expensive to do so if you go a la carte. So I'd say when you're cruising on MSC, plan on a few meals a la carte at the specialty restaurants, and you'll be just fine.
All right, well, hopefully this will help you guys out in making your decision in cruising with MSC, guys. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Leave us a comment below if you have any other questions about food on MSC, or you can check out one of the other MSC videos right here on the channel.